Welcome back to the channel. This is Zach or ZenForce TCG. Today we're going to be diving into sealed product prices from Scarlet and Violet era. We're going to take a look at how they're performing, where they're at, and where they might go, and try to poke some holes in maybe some of the discrepancies or loopholes in the market right now. So just to show you, I put together a spreadsheet recently. Hopefully I can track this monthly. Again, I've been so inconsistent with the uploads, but I'm going to try to work on it. So I'll explain what each of these columns represent. They're pretty straightforward, but just to give you more context, we have obviously the set name, the set number, the box price using TCG Player market price. So this is both the booster box price for mainline sets and the ETB price, regular ETB price for specialty sets. So that's just taking the average market price that TCG Player has listed. You probably could find them cheaper on eBay in some cases, on Instagram in some cases, private sales through Facebook, Discord, whatever. This is to give us a rough estimate of what's going on in the market. I'm not trying to find you the cheapest price necessarily. I'm trying to just show the general trend and or trajectory of some of these sets. The next column we have is the 30-day sell-through rate. So this is how many items per set or per booster box and or ETB set are selling in the past 30 days. I've also plotted this on a graph here. I'm going to try to put more graphs in the future because I do think the visual representation is a little bit more helpful to show what's going on. Obviously, Prismatic Evolutions and Destined Rivals, it's pretty heavily skewed because Destined Rivals just released and Prismatic Evolutions is just absolutely crushing it, I guess, through the demand. So it is a helpful metric, but I am going to try to plot some more of this data on charts in the future. So that metric can be helpful to look at. I've also pulled the pack price based on the value of the box. So what this does, and there is a bit of a discrepancy here I'd like to explain. So it takes the TCG market price, and for a booster box, it divides it by 36. So for Scarlet Violet base, it takes $213.13, divides it by 36 packs per box. You get a pack price of $5.92. And then what we're doing is comparing that in the next column to the loose pack price on TCG Player, and then I take a ratio of that in the loose pack over regular pack price. So for example, 94% means that the loose pack price on TCG Player, if you bought an individual booster pack, is about 94% of the pack price coming out of a box. So what this can help us determine in the future, hopefully, and especially with eras like Sword and Shield, I know a lot of other YouTubers have been plotting that, is it can show, like an example here. I haven't updated this in a few days. I haven't finished this, so don't get on me about it yet, but an example could be right here, the Evolving Skies. You take the booster box price as of a few days ago, you get a pack price of about $50 per pack, but you could buy loose packs for $25, which gives you about a 50%, 52% ratio. So we're going to use that metric in the future to help us determine if other products outside of booster boxes could be slightly undervalued. And then the final metric I have here is the set value in singles. So this is the total set value with all the singles combined. And we also could plot that and look at the most valuable or least valuable sets. An interesting point I want to make here is that you'll notice that pretty much all of the booster boxes for all of Scarlet and Violet era, they're obviously sold out at distribution for the most part, or I think entirely. But they all are in that $200 to $250 range. And yet the set values for the singles are so drastically different. So if I sort this by A to Z, for example, you would see the cheapest booster box set by the price of singles is Obsidian Flames at $283.82. That is the combination of every single raw price in that set. But then obviously you have sets like Surging Sparks, which is actually cheaper by the booster box right now because it just had a reprint recently, but the singles are 6 times that price. You obviously have the Pikachu and things like that, which are way more expensive. That there's not a even trade-off of saying, oh, because the singles are that much more expensive, it means that Obsidian Flames is undervalued for its singles. That's not what I'm trying to say there. All I'm trying to point out is that there could be some potential. I think the singles can be a helpful metric in looking at how the set is performing over time. So if the singles are consistently going down, but the box price is going up, that means that more of that box is probably being opened, which is a pretty normal trend, I would say. But it also could show you that if the singles start to go on a run, but the box price hasn't adjusted accordingly, that then there might be some arbitrage there for some of the sealed products. So I just wanted to point that out. I will say that, and I wrote down here with the asterisk, the ETB data is actually skewed a bit. So because there's only 9 packs per ETB in Scarlet Violet era for the regular ETBs, when you look at a set like 151, it's $228 for a regular ETB right now, which would put the pack price at $25 a pack if you're excluding the promo. But you can buy loose packs on TCG Player for $9.23, which gives us this ratio of 36%. So it's not exactly accurate in that regard, because for the other sets, we're comparing a loose pack versus 36 packs in a box. If you were to buy 36 loose packs, obviously, if you were going to buy 9 loose packs, that is more. You get more bang for your buck buying the loose packs compared to buying an ETB for the pack prices. But it is an interesting trend. It does seem like that's the case for most ETB sets. That's why I've highlighted them. But you will start to see it equalizes a little bit more down here with Shrouded and Prismatic as well. But just to go through it, like very briefly, again, looking at the sell-through, it's pretty consistent across the board. I think that is probably because the box prices are more or less the same. Paldea has a little bit of an uptick recently, I think, because it ran from like $250 to $300-ish a box. So a lot of people probably were picking that up. And you also have ones like Surging Sparks, which the price has been actually declining because of the reprint. So it went from about $250 to I think like $220 now. I will say Surging Sparks does feel like a bit of a buy. I don't want to convince anyone to buy or sell anything right now, but Surging Sparks, for the value in the singles, the booster box price seems to be pretty cheap to me in comparison to other sets. And you can see that as well with that metric of the loose pack price, like I was mentioning. So to date, I just highlighted it in blue so you could see 113% means that the loose pack price is actually exceeding the pack price per box if you were to divide that box into 36 loose packs. Again, that should never be equal. But I just want to point that out because it can help be a guiding principle of like maybe where value could be extracted. If that were to go to 130, 140%, I do think that would really scream that the booster box is like severely undervalued, but that's just me. Another one that's interesting to look at, I think, is actually Paldean Fates. So I'm not a huge fan of this set, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of like baby shinies and all that, but what I do want to point out is that when you look at it compared to like 151, for example, 151, I would be very cautious buying loose packs and singles right now because they've been doing mass scale reprints with, or restocks, whatever you want to call it, with the Blooming Waters boxes. Everyone's been posting them hitting cost or target recently, but the ETBs haven't been getting any reprints, and as such, it makes the pack price more expensive in those ETBs theoretically, or the value of the sealed product itself is more valuable. And so I think what's interesting is when you look at Paldean Fates, I feel like it will follow a somewhat similar trend. At 140 in ETB, it's actually not terrible. That gap is not as big as like with 151, and I don't think they've reprinted Paldean Fates, or maybe they have. I could be wrong there, but it doesn't seem like they've reprinted it, and definitely not as heavily as they've been reprinting 151 products. And 151 hasn't seen any ETB reprints really, and so therefore the ETB has like continued to go up in price, whereas things like the booster bundles or the Blooming Waters have continued to sort of been kept at bay by the Pokemon Center or Pokemon Company because they're trying to keep those singles and the booster packs pretty affordable. I think if and when they stop reprinting 151, this thing is absolutely going to moonshot. Regardless of the population, it's just too popular of a set, too popular of a era and generation for it to not do well, in my opinion. We saw with Crown Zenith, they tried to do the same thing with Sea and Sky boxes. Those have still continued to perform super, super well. So that's all I'll say about 151. But yeah, let's just see what happens when we sort from high to low for box prices. So obviously, again, the ETBs for the specialty sets are going to be cheaper here because they're not the same amount of packs as booster boxes. But we have for mainline booster box sets, we have Journey Together being the cheapest right now, then Paradox Rift, Temporal, SV Base, Surging Sparks, Stellar Crown, Obsidian Flames, Twilight Masquerade, Destined Rivals, Paldea Evolved. So Destined Rivals I highlighted in red because I would be very cautious buying pretty much anything to do with this set right now, in my opinion. I wouldn't be buying loose packs. I wouldn't be buying booster boxes at the current prices. I would definitely not be buying singles at the current prices. So just be aware of that. That's why I highlighted it in red. It's brand new. This is literally a day after the official release. Journey Together is an interesting one. I included both the enhanced and non-enhanced booster box data. So I took the price of the non-enhanced, took the price of the enhanced booster box, added the non-enhanced, and divided it by 2. Did the same thing with the sell-through, adding both the enhanced and non-enhanced boxes. Journey Together is a little bit interesting because it has definitely had like the highest sell-through previously, but it is now the cheapest booster box. Maybe because people know that it's going to get reprinted soon. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting metric. I still think Paradox and Temporal are probably the biggest sleepers of the SV era right now. I think Temporal, I posted it on my story yesterday. I think Temporal is my favorite SV set so far. It definitely has the best SIR selection, in my opinion, overall, both thematically and just card-wise. You have the Raging Bolt, Walking Wake, Gouging Fire, Iron Crown, Iron Leaves, Iron Boulder, Morty's Conviction, and Ghastly IR. Here's my thing. I have realized time and time again now, we saw it with Phantom Forces. We're now seeing it with Fusion Strike. Any set with Gengar, in my opinion, is an absolute must-have at some point. I don't care what anyone else says. That's just my opinion. I think Temporal Forces is grossly undervalued, not only for the SIR selection in it, but it has a Gengar card and it has a Ghastly IR. I do think those will do well long term in the next couple years. Will it reach the levels of Fusion Strike? Probably not, but Fusion Strike and Chilling Reign, everyone talks about how it was a $70, $80 box. Now look at it. There's no telling what this set could do. I just think in comparison to some of the other sets, I still like these two a lot more. Especially at the current price, they're not too bad. Another one that I think is interesting is actually Shrouded Fable. The reason why I want to bring up Shrouded is if I sort by, again, I'm not telling you to buy based off the singles, but I just want to point out that Shrouded Fable's set value is higher than SV Base, Stellar Crown, and Obsidian Flames. Everyone talks about how bad of a set Shrouded is, yet it's like barely reaching MSRP for the ETB price. And also when I was looking at it, I think the PC ETBs were going for like $350 or so for a case, and then the regular ETBs were $600 or so. And I just want to point out that I do think Shrouded has a decent amount of set depth when you look at it. I do have other metrics on here that I am purposely not choosing to show because I think it's overwhelming. But like if I unhide some of these columns, I'll probably make another video about it eventually. But I did this on previous videos, the top 3 singles in the set, the top 10 singles, and then the ratio of those two. I think Shrouded actually has the best set depth ratio-wise, if you look at it, for the singles. And so what that tells me is that this set actually has a lot better selection of singles than people are giving it credit for right now. That's just my opinion. I think no one wants it. I don't think a lot of people have been buying it, and therefore in the future, in the next couple months, years, you may see the sealed product of Shrouded do really, really well. But again, that's just my take. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the data here. Would you be interested in seeing this on like a monthly basis and really tracking like what the percent change is month over month? I'd be happy to do so. I think some of the data is really interesting. I started to be curious about it with Sword and Shield, especially after seeing a lot of those YouTubers posting how loose packs could be pretty undervalued. I haven't finished the Sword and Shield data yet, so let me know if you want to see a Sword and Shield video on sealed boxes versus loose packs. For SV era, it seems pretty balanced overall, relatively speaking, in terms of the box prices are pretty consistent across the board. And the pack prices, again, for that ratio, for the most part, are pretty close to 100%, with the exception of some of the specialty sets. Again, the caveat there is that there's only 9 packs per ETB, so it kind of skews the data when looking at it compared to a loose pack, in my opinion. Maybe there's a better way to represent that data. If someone has an idea, please let me know. But when they're within 20-30% of the normal pack price, I don't think it's a screaming buy or concern or anything. I think when you start getting in those like 50-60% ranges, it could reveal that certain other products, loose packs, triple pack blisters, bundles, things like that could be a better buy. Um, but yeah, that's just my take on everything right now. Again, it's kind of an overview, but I do want to start doing this month over month, get back into the videos. So please let me know what you thought of it down below. And other than that, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord down in the description below where you can buy, sell, trade all of your Pokemon cards. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in a new one soon. Peace.